Hey y'all, welcome back to Naked Talk with unprocessedJESS. So today is actually 1 year that I started my podcast last year. How cool is that? I'm so excited that I just went for it. It was not easy, y'all. I was like really scared, but I did it, and I'm so glad I did. And also, summer is in full effect here. Here in Houston, Texas. The kids have been out for a couple of weeks, so I'm definitely feeling the change in schedules and everything. But like I was sharing on my live, that doesn't mean that you cannot grow your business or your health or these other things, but you do have to have time blocking and boundaries in place. That goes back to that holistic health. Remember, all areas of your life are connected and they affect the other, especially your business or your career as well. So that's a little encouragement there. It has not been easy, but we're getting it done. And so I'm excited about that. I want to share a little bit about something you may have seen. It's the Faster Way to Fat Loss. I'm a certified coach for that. What I love about the Faster Way to Fat Loss, it's digital fitness and nutrition, and it combines that carb cycling with the intermittent fasting, and it's from a holistic view as well. So I love fitness. I've tried a lot of things. I've been exposed to different dietary theories as a certified holistic health coach. And I've done the carb cycling, but I've never paired it with the intermittent fasting. And y'all, it has been a game changer. I was a little concerned about losing my muscle mass, but I have not. I do my strength training. I do my things fasted, and I'm just loving the results. And our body just really needs that rest from digestion, right? So if it's always digesting, that's taken away from other things it needs to be doing. So if you haven't already, check it out. I have the link in my Instagram profile at unprocessedJESS, or you can go to fasterwaycoach.com/#unprocessedJESS, and I'll have that link in the show notes. So, okay, y'all, you've heard me talk about it for a while, and you'll know in a minute what pushed me to actually do that. But I've been telling you that I'm going to have a Biz Edition on here once a month because we get so many questions about it. And I want to share some bite-sized biz tips and tools with you, but also behind the business, right? So behind every successful business or growing entrepreneur is a person. We are business owners, but we have other areas of our life. So what better way to kick this off than with one of my biggest mentors and who is huge in this industry, Pat Flynn. Yeah, I'm totally geeking out as well. So, hey, Pat, welcome to Naked Talk with unprocessedJESS. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you for having me. And first of all, congrats on the 1 year anniversary of your show. I'm so proud of you and what you're creating and all these amazing things that you're talking about, even in the intro here, just getting me so excited for you and your future and the future of your audience too.
Thank you.
I'm super stoked.
Thank you. So, Pat and I met in person last year, actually just before this time in May in San Diego at your Power Up Podcasting Weekend Workshop. At that time, I knew about passive income and affiliate, but I wasn't really growing my business that way. But when I saw the podcast, and I've shared on here why I wanted to start my podcast, I saw that and, I just knew it was for me. And I went, and I'm so glad I did. And then less than a month later, I've shared I went to Podcast Movement, and it has just grown from there. So that's how Pat and I initially met. And I've just followed him. But what I really love, not only, Pat, that you are a rock star in our industry and in the business, but I love how you are a great example of someone building their business, but not letting their family and other things fall by the wayside. And I see time and time again with my health coaching clients and just people that I know that are really struggling. And it doesn't mean we're perfect, right? But I love that you keep that at the forefront and that you are really striving to integrate your life with your business, not the other way around. So you're not allowing your business to consume your life. And I saw Keone on stage last year at Podcast Movement. I hear you talk about April, and I see your daughter, and I just love that. So that's what I thought you could do was share a little bit about how you do it, Pat. How does that all work?
Thank you for number one, even noticing that, the whole reason why I've built my business the way it is so that I can spend more time with my family, so that we can have the freedom to do things and, big things like trips, but also micro things like my wife and I both walking the kids to school every day and picking them up every day and doing that together as a family and having those kinds of moments. And it's just been really important to me. So I appreciate when anybody notices that, because it's why I'm here. But what I love to do in the business is, get my family to kind of know what's going on. I think, when I grew up, I remember work and business, like for my dad, was the thing that took him away from me, right? Like he'd be gone and then he would come back in the evening and that was the only time I could see him. And thankfully, as an entrepreneur who works from home, I don't have to leave the house. But instead of just locking the door and saying, hey, I won't see you till 6 p.m., like I invite them in. Like, hey, kids, look at all this cool stuff that I'm doing, and here's who I'm connecting with. Like, come get behind the microphone, play with it a little bit. Hell, like I want the business and the work that I do to bring the family closer together, right? And you mentioned some things that we did together on stage, and not in a forceful way, but just whatever their interests are related to that, I want them to sort of just get involved with it and get excited about it. I also have a big passion for teaching kids entrepreneurship, and those skills of an entrepreneur, whether they become an entrepreneur or not, are so useful in life. But that's one thing, and the other thing is just having decisions that I make in my business based off of the kind of life I want to live.
Yes.
I had a book come out in 2016 called Will It Fly? And there's an exercise in there that changed my life that I shared with others. And it's called the airport test. And this is a test where you imagine yourself 5 years in the future and you're at the airport and maybe your flight's delayed or something, but then you meet an old friend there that you hadn't seen in a while, who's just, wow, like cool of you to meet this person who's been in your life for a while, but you've lost touch. You go and get coffee together and they ask you, hey, like, how's life? And you say, life is amazing. Like, I couldn't ask for a better life right now. Life is amazing. And they go, well, why? Well, like, what's happened? So what would need to happen between now and 5 years from now when this happens to you to make you say that? Like, life is awesome. Life is amazing. And the way for you to structure this is, if you imagine a piece of paper and you fold it into 4 sectors, like in half both ways, then you can choose a category of your life that is really important to you for each sector. So one might be health, another might be family, another might be, finances, and another one could be like, career-based, or maybe music if you're into that, whatever those top 4 important aspects are. And then you start listing, thinking 5 years from now, what would make you say that life is amazing related to health? What would make you say that life is amazing related to family? And then this sheet becomes the most important thing in your life, because this is your roadmap, your decision maker. So when you get an opportunity, for example, in the future, like I recently got to start a company that could potentially be hundreds of millions of dollars, it was easy for me to say no, because it didn't fit into that 5-year plan that I had created in my vision for my future. Yes, I can make lots of money, but guess what? I would probably have to suffer with my family and my wife and my kids. I would probably have to suffer with my health, because I'd be going into an office every day with a suit and be miserable. Yeah. However, how often do we make decisions because we just see the immediate sort of day after effects versus the lifelong effects of those decisions? So this sheet, this exercise, the airport test, can help you define what is going to help you say yes and what's going to help you say no, because then the other challenge is being okay with saying no. And I think especially in business, especially at the start, we want to say yes to every opportunity, but at what expense? And also because we don't think those opportunities are going to come back. But I think it was Richard Branson who said, businesses are like bus stops. Like, another bus is going to keep coming. You want to make sure you take the right bus to your destination. And so that's where it all starts. Like, we didn't even get into like, what niche should you be in, or like, how do you build a thing? Like, it all starts with who you are and who you want to be, and what's most important to you.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, I actually have your Will It Fly book, and I have a Let Go book, and that one, and that really helped me a lot, because like you said, when you are working so hard to build your brand, especially as an entrepreneur, and then that something comes along, it's difficult, right? And that's what I share about with my clients, my holistic coaching clients. They're successful, quote unquote, right, in their job, but they're miserable at home. So this helps you also say yes or no, whether it's a business or your career, because good things will come your way. And like I've said, you have to plant those seeds, right? Put in the work. And I have a lot of opportunities that I was telling my husband, they're all coming together at once. And on the outside, it seems like everything's right. Like, oh, all this happened. No. Like, it's been years of working. But also I noticed that as I removed those relationships that weren't good for me. As I removed all these things that I was saying yes to, it really created space for the people who want what's best for me, and those opportunities to be able to focus. So yeah, I actually did that, and read your book. And it's interesting that when you say about your kids, because I know Keone has a podcast too. So my youngest, when we were coming back, we were delayed on a flight back home, and that's when we did her first podcast episode. We had time. Awesome. I had my little, what is it, the Shure SM, I don't know if it's MV88, yeah. The one that goes into your iPhone.
Oh, okay, yep.
Yeah, and we did her first episode, and I have all three of my girls here at the studio outside. I've got my middle daughter Lily taking pictures, and I have 2 teens, and I have them doing little things in my business because they are interested. So for me, just to say, like, you leading that way, that has been so helpful because you embody the holistic entrepreneur and that whole life leadership. And so thank you for that. Yes. And I love your Let Go book as well. So
thank you. I love that you're doing it in that way too. And whether they become somebody who does something similar to you, it doesn't matter. You're giving them those life experiences and you're letting them in on who you are. Your relationship is growing as a result, and they are gathering skills. And, a skill of growing up is learning what you like and what you don't like. And the only way to know that when you're growing up is to do things, right? And yes. Sometimes people ask kids who are like 6 years old, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I know where they're coming from, but that's a very scary and sort of unfair question to ask a kid, because like, how does that kid even know what they want in life? How do they know what they're good at and not good at? They have to do that through learning by mentors. And you are mentoring your kids, I'm mentoring mine, and there's other mentors out there that we can find to give us those experiences so we can make wise decisions for our future in school and where we want to go and where we want to live and who we want to be and who we want to be with. I love that you mentioned that you've got rid of some toxic, potentially relationships around you, because that's so key. You need to surround yourself with others who will support you and who share the same values. I think another big myth that a lot of people have when it comes to this sort of like work-life balance situation is we try to imagine that there is actual balance, like right. Perfect balance. And if you imagine like a literal scale, it's only balanced if there's equal weight on both sides at the same time. Like, it's just when you really logistically think about that, like it's nearly impossible to have life perfectly balanced on both sides at the same time for a long period of time. That's just one moment in the whole spectrum of going to one side to all the way to the other. So when I teach people about, business and life together, I say, integrate it in a way that makes sense, but also don't try to make it perfectly balanced. There's never a 50-50 situation. It's always moving. It's always changing. And there's seasons of life. There are seasons of business. And so my analogy is, don't imagine a scale 50-50 on both sides, but just make that scale not teeter too far to one side or teeter to the other. Have things that can balance it out if it goes too far one side. So, for example, I am undergoing a very big launch very soon for my upcoming book, Superfans. This is requiring extra podcast episodes on my podcast tour, right? It requires a lot of headspace for my team and our marketing. It may even require me to go travel certain places to do a in-person book tour type related things or what have you. But I also know at the other end of the launch, my family and I, we're going to be going to London to spend 2 weeks together. And that's going to be no work. And that is something that, and of course, that's easier said than done, but there's always a balance. We always have something to look forward to on the other end of that season, just like how we can look forward to spring after winter, right? So just understanding that sort of cycle is really important, so that you're never too far on one side, because the problem becomes when there's all this weight on your business and there's nothing on the family side. Well, that's not okay. And the other way around too, if you're trying to build a business and you're 100% on family, if that's your choice, that's great. And I support that. My wife has made that choice to not start her own business because she wants to be there to fully 100% support the kids at the young age that they're at now, although they're both in school now. So we're getting a little bit of time, extra to do things. But again, what's the life you want and how are you going to manage that scale?
Yeah, I love that. And I've shared with you, Pat, you know this, but I homeschooled my girls for the majority of the time. And same thing, I would get to a point in my business but then I chose not to stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning, not to miss those moments. And now I know that this is my season. They're all in school now. And like you said, they were younger. They're all a little bit older, 10 and up. And now I just see that all that time wasn't not for naught, but now those seeds that I planted, now I'm ready for those opportunities. But I can do that with a clear conscience that I did it in the way that I saw, without having to do that. And another thing I love is just like you have Flynn Con coming up. It's in July. So I'm really excited about that. And I love that you chose to make that family friendly, because if we can find a way to make it a little more family friendly and not always take away from our family, I just love that you did that. I think that speaks volumes to me as a parentpreneur. And we're kind of doing the same thing. I'm going to FlynnCon, but then our family's going to Indonesia. And then I have another event I'm going to in August, but my husband and I are going to Alaska. So you know how it is. Like you might speak and you might have those seasons, and that's okay. But just make sure you're intentional about what you're doing and what you're feeding, into your family life as well. And I've mentioned this as well on the show about Naked Talk with UnprocessedJESS is about having candid convos about things that we're struggling with but not talking about. And I do want to say, just because there's so many entrepreneurs that are listening, that a lot of times in marriages, it's easy to kind of let that go, right? Because, they're home, they're there. But what's happening is a lot of marriages, they're not having that intimate connection, and they're growing further apart, and they don't have those boundaries maybe with their children or their job. And it's really becoming a big issue today. So it is important to have that. And your gut health, things like gut health that we don't want to talk about, but then you don't have energy and you're not sleeping, and it affects your, your sex drive, your hormones, and you're just not a happy camper for anybody. So I love that we're starting to talk about this whole life leadership, because it is so important to have a sustainable career or business. And that's what we want, right? So I love that.
Absolutely. And you had mentioned a key word there in that, which is boundaries, and creating sort of like silos of time, for example, for certain things, which I think has been one of the biggest things. I remember when I was first married, and that was at the same time my business was taking off, like legit taking off, and it was so exciting. And I remember having conversations with my wife where like I could see her mouth moving, but my brain wasn't listening. My brain was like, what's the next email I need to send? What's the next sort of product that I'm going to come out with? And I remember one time in particular, because she caught me, she cold-blooded, like knew that I wasn't in that conversation. And I like freaked out. So we were talking, and I was just like nodding my head. Yeah, honey. And she was like, wait, stop. You're not even engaged in this conversation right now, aren't you? Like, what was the last thing I said? And then I go, what was the last thing I said was what you said. And she's like, nope. Okay, we need to talk about this. And we had a really heated but very important conversation. This is pre-kids, and I'm very thankful that she called me out on it, because that was the origin of us creating a little bit more boundary. Now, I had gotten laid off from an architecture job, which was a 9-to-6 job. And, as hard as that was, I'm very grateful for getting laid off, because it allowed me to become a business owner myself. However, I didn't realize how important the 9-to-6 sort of situation was, because at 6 o'clock, I could go back home, check out of my business, and check into her. Yeah. And I didn't have that anymore. So I needed to create that. The time boundaries was number one. So we did that. So now when I'm in my business, I'm fully 100% engaged in my business. But when I'm with my family, I can guarantee you I'm fully 100% engaged with them. Like, the phone is in the pocket. It's on silent. I've learned that, the phone is trying to creep in back again to my personal life, or in ways it shouldn't. So just being aware of those things is important. And then the other boundary was a physical boundary of, here's a place for work.
Yes.
Here's a place for not work, including like a second computer. Like, I literally have a laptop computer that is for work only. Like, the only thing I'm allowed to do on that computer it was work. And then I got a new home with an office, and the office that I'm in right now, this is my workspace. But when I leave, that's my going home after the 9-to-6. That's I'm checked out of work, because I can only do work in here, and I am checked into family outside of this office. But it's hard, because as entrepreneurs, especially work from home, it's like, hey, you go work from home at dinner. You could work from home while having a conversation with somebody. You could work from home while you should be going to date night with your wife, and that's important. Like the relationship with my wife is so key because she works so hard, harder than me, to support the kids and to sort of support me. It's the least I can do is take her out every week and make her feel special. And that's important for us because then we get to escape for a little bit. And then, it doesn't take much time, like 3 hours and we're like in love again. And then, not that we weren't, but it's like we can check in with each other again, just mentally, without the kids sort of like pulling at our shirts.
Yeah, you remember why those things again as a friend, right? And that's what I told my kids. I'm 42, and when I turned 40, I said, between homeschooling, you're there all day, you're there at night, in your business. And I just said, my husband and I were fine. We didn't argue or fight, but we wanted to have fun again and flirt and, all those things. And it is so important. And even with that phone, that's one thing, right? But then because we do things online, that's a whole other thing. And then you're like, oh, well, I'm checking kind of personal on my friends and now it's business. So I love that you shared about that. And I share about that in my Sex and Sleep, How to Get More of It episode, that a lot of clients are either falling asleep on their iPad or, on their phone. And that's just not good. Not only does it disrupt your sleep, but your room should be for sex or sleep, and it shouldn't be that. And so I think those boundaries are just really good in making that decision. And then I just really share that all areas of your life are interconnected and they affect the other. And true whole health is more than just chomping on greens and looking hot naked, although that helps. But it's all those areas, right? And so business, family, all of that is included in that. So, so I do want you to share a little bit about, because I actually got my pre-order for your book. So speaking of big business, you're killing it like always. But explain to them a little bit about the bonus that you have for pre-order, because I think that's going to be ending soon.
Yeah, and thank you again, Jess. I appreciate you having me on and allowing me to share this big project I've been working on. My new book, Super Fans, is coming out on August 13th. And this is a book that teaches anybody trying to build a following of any kind. You could be a solo YouTuber, a person on Instagram, doesn't matter, or a Fortune 500 CEO. Building fans is the future of business, and building for fans, because a lot of us are focused on more traffic, more exposure. But okay, what happens when people find you? How are you going to create magical moments for them so that you can become their favorite, so that they'll share you, so that they'll buy every product you come out with, so that they'll read every blog post, listen to every podcast, and be that supporter for you that you don't even have to pay, right? And so this is the future of business, because social media is changing, email, technology is changing. But the truth is, if you have super fans, they're going to follow you no matter what, and they're going to be the lifeblood of your business. And this book teaches you how to build super fans, because they're not created overnight. And you don't need very many to do some amazing things and build a very, very amazing business to support your life. And the pre-order is really interesting, because if you pre-order the book, it's available on Target, Barnes & Noble, and Amazon, which is easy, of course. If you pre-order it, no matter where you pre-order it, submit your receipt at yoursuperfans.com, and you'll get my audiobook for the book for free. And the audiobook is even extra, because I go off script a little bit every once in a while, like I tend to do in my audiobooks. But the audiobooks are usually more expensive than the actual book. So if you get your book pre-ordered before August 13th, go to yoursuperfans.com. You can pre-order, you can submit your receipt there, and you'll get the audiobook during launch week. And just thank you for that, because I'm very passionate about this topic. For anybody who's trying to build a following in a business, this is the way to do it in a genuine way that, sort of everybody wins in this situation. So thank you for allowing me to share that, Jess.
Yeah, because I think, just what I've learned building my brand and in fitness or different things, it's about, we're craving connection, right? We want that connection. So the technology might change. As you know, being online, it can change and you have to adjust to that, but it always goes back to that really connection. And if you can create that and have that, then you're just really changing the medium, but that is still at the heart of it. So absolutely. Thank you again, Pat. And I'm so excited to see you at Flynn Con. And can't
wait to see you there. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yes. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you.
And so this has been the first Biz Edition. So be looking for this once a month. And I'm really excited to share more biz tips and tools and behind the biz with amazing entrepreneurs. All right. I'll talk to y'all next time. Bye.